Growing up in the USA and Africa. This is my Icebreaker speech, first time. Thank you. And my name is John Fitzmaurice. I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, May 1955. So for the Mexicans, Kansas City is in the middle of the country. It's not the north, the south, the east or west. It's in the middle. So it doesn't always fit into categories like it's southern or northern. It's just kind of in the middle. So when I talk about myself, I have to explain my childhood in different countries, because from that experience, though, that made me make all my other decisions in life. And I followed on the path of my father, which was working around the world really good. So anyway, when I was very young, my first, experience in the USA was my grandparents' farm near Kansas City, and they raised corn. So when I first came to Iowa in October, I'm driving down the highway and I look out like, hey, this looks like my old home. At least because it's a lot of corn. It's 8 foot tall. It looks pretty much the same. So part of my life was in a small little town, but our farm was small, and we had 4 kids in the family, and my dad didn't actually own the farm, my grandma did, and so he had to find a job, right? And in World War II, he had been a radar technician. So do the Spanish speakers understand? It's radar, right? Technical radar. He was a radar technician. So what he used to do was, they had this equipment, they had a screen. He was one of the only soldiers in all World War II that had a screen, right? Now, half of them use a screen. But he had a screen, and he'd pick up the dot, and then he'd have to place it on the map, where the airplane was on the map. So he started using maps when he was 18. He got drafted, went to the Army, used maps all the time. So his first job was making maps for the U.S. Army and in Kansas City. So he drove, hour and 10 minutes up to Kansas City, did his 8 hours, came back, plowed his field. He's very busy, right? Very small town life. Then, when I was 9, we had a big change. His next job was making maps and teaching map making in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So it was like, geographically they're on other sides of the world, but also we went from a small town to suddenly he's going to parties at the embassy. We had 3 servants. We had, just totally different lifestyle. Every year or 2 years we'd go back to the States. We had vacations in Europe, and so I had, like a medium lifestyle. But then suddenly we were at the top there for a few years. And but Ethiopia or Addis Ababa really, reminds me a lot of Iowa. It has the same climate, and it's an international place. Addis Ababa had embassies from all over the world, grocery stores from, French, Italian, restaurants, very, very international, just like Iowa. Except it has a little bit of that small town thing too, which I like. That's part of my background. So we also spent 2 years in Chad, which wasn't like Ethiopia at all. It was flat, very hot, very dry, and very French. There's almost no Americans, almost no other nationalities. The only foreigners were French people. So after high school, I went to the University of Missouri and graduated with a BS in mechanical engineering and worked on turbine generators. And sometimes I worked on compressor drive generators, turbines. And so I worked in oil and gas and power, right? 2 different businesses. And so in Mexico, I worked for CFE. I worked for an American company, but they did projects with CFE, right? And I worked in, where all did I work? Acapulco, Mexico City, and Baja California. But American turbine companies were very competitive, and so they had business all over the world. They sold them to Russia, China, and I worked in 20 countries in every continent except Australia. So, so my family and I settled in Hawaii in 1999, but I continued to travel and turbine work because that's really all you know after. If you work in a field like 20 years, you can't restart anything else except Walmart maybe. But so I continued to travel, so I still had to travel, and I worked about 6 months outside of Hawaii, and then I'd come back for 6 months, but it was all pretty random. And then my ex-wife and 2 boys still live in Hawaii. And so why am I in Mexico? Because that's another big story. My mother was doing very poorly back in 2016 and 17. And so my sister lived in San Miguel, and she said, you know, I wish we would have taken Mom to Mexico years ago. And so we started planning, you know, how could we get Mom here? And so we found on the internet that Ajijic has a lot of asilos, old folks homes, so I came down here in October 2018, 2017, and found an asilo for Mom, and we brought her down here. She's been here 5 years now, and she had certain medical conditions in the States, and they've been cleared up here in Mexico. And the reason they cleared up was that she took less medicines. She went from 14 to 3, right? And a lot of conditions cleared up. But she has gotten older. It's not, you know, Mexico is not like the fountain of youth, and she's gotten older in the last 5 years, and she's pretty much bedridden now and barely talks, just a few words. So anyway, eventually I liked it, coming here and visiting. I liked it so much I moved here, and then I joined Toastmasters, and now that's the story right up to today.